Um, it's an enormous honor to introduce our next speaker, who is really not just one of the best friends that the space community has in Congress, but also a very long-term and long-time friend of the National Space Society. And of course, I'm talking about Congressman Nick Lampson. Prior to this Congress, Congressman Lampson served as the ranking member on the Space and Aeronautics Subcommittee, where he fights hard for more resources so we can fulfill our country's leadership role in space exploration and scientific technology development. As the congressional representative for Johnson Space Center, much of his attention these days has been focused on the International Space Station. He is committed to working towards moving beyond the core complete discussion and fulfilling the original vision for a 7-person space station. He calls for us to keep our commitments to our international partners on this program and to continue offering a vision and goals for the future of the human spaceflight program. Congressman Lampson believes that space exploration is humanity's future, not just America's, and that we can work together to revitalize our space program, energize our industrial and academic sectors, and inspire our young people. I really hope you'll join me in sending a really huge round of welcome applause to Congressman Nick Lampson. Thank you.
I was thinking back to my teaching days. I also thought of some words that I sometimes referred to that were made by a long time ago Education Secretary Horace Mann, who said that education was a great equalizer of humanity. And I think I realized last night and this morning, so is air travel. And I'm on a bunch of different committees. I thought that I would at least try to keep my options open a little bit. One of them was agriculture. So I thought, if I can't get on an airplane, why don't I ask USDA to get me a horse? I would have tried anything at that point. And then also, when I was scheduled on American Airlines, I found that I had seat 13 Echo, so I should have known something. Luckily, Continental was there to help me last night when I said, Houston, I have a problem. So here I am this morning behind schedule, but after having gone to Newark, New Jersey from Washington to get to Dallas, Texas. So it's been an interesting morning to say the least. But it's a great honor to be here with all of you today. I was expecting Mike Coates to be here before me, and I had been with him yesterday morning. It's great always to see the work that the folks at Johnson Space Center, I think that he and the entire team there can be extremely proud of what they have accomplished over the years. I have no doubt that the best is still to come. It's what lies ahead at NASA as they prepare to return to the moon, followed by journeys to Mars and beyond. And the same can be said about the National Space Society as you celebrate your 20th anniversary this year. You can take pride in the fact that you and your predecessor societies, the National Space Institute and the L5 Society, have long been strong and passionate advocates for the creation of a spacefaring civilization. And I think it's fair to say that real progress, maybe not as much as all of us would have liked at this point, but real progress nonetheless has been made in working toward the goals of the National Space Society mission, namely to promote social, economic, technological, and political change to advance the day when humans will live and work in space. Well, some of that progress has been made in the governmental sector, as NASA has been given the go-ahead to once again move humanity out of low Earth orbit. No one was happier than I was in January of 2004 when President Bush announced his vision for space exploration. In fact, the person who had introduced the Space Exploration Act 2 years earlier in the U.S. House of Representatives to build the momentum for human exploration of the solar system. My only real disappointment was that it had taken so long for the President to announce his exploration initiative. Nevertheless, I was pleased, as I suspect many of you were, hope so, that we were finally on our way to resume the journey that had stalled after Gene Cernan departed the surface of the moon back in 1972. The 3.5 years that have passed since the President's speech have seen both false starts and real progress, as NASA has developed an exploration architecture and started to acquire the spacecraft and launch vehicles that it'll need to return astronauts to the moon. However, I'm concerned about our ability to sustain the momentum that has been generated to date. And that's because there has been an unfortunate disconnect between all the rhetoric about the need to undertake a, quote, once-in-a-generation change in the nation's human space transportation system, unquote, and the amount of money actually being budgeted for it. Similarly, for something as bold and exciting as returning humans to the moon, building a lunar outpost, and preparing to journey to Mars and beyond, the budgets that have come from the administration and from Congress bear little resemblance to what is actually needed for such an initiative. Instead, we're seeing a business-as-usual approach that is not going to deliver the robust and broad-based exploration program laid out in the vision for space exploration. I don't know how many of you know, but NASA's budget as a part of the federal budget back during the Apollo years was about 6%. Today, it's just a little bit better than 0.6%, 1/10 of what was happening and being allocated at the time. Real commitment, real desire to achieve great things, and somehow we have to find our way back to that. And unfortunately, it's also not an approach likely to inspire the best and the brightest of the emerging generation of scientists and engineers to seek careers in space exploration. Many of you got your enthusiasm about space when you watched what was going on during those years in the late 60s and early 70s when we were going back and forth to the moon. That's when I was teaching physical science in a high school. And I know that many of the students that I had were inspired to study math and science and engineering because of that. Today, the United States of America ranks 39th in math and science education. Not acceptable. I have to tell you that that disconnect has been noticed on Capitol Hill, where space supporters in Congress like me are having an ongoing battle to convince our colleagues that NASA and the vision need more funding, regardless of whether the President is unwilling to ask for it or Congress is unwilling to increase it. And I got to tell you, it's a frustrating situation. And we're likely to face some tough sledding as a result, both in this 110th Congress, which is going on now, and will be meeting through this year and next year, and when there is a new president, whether Democrat or Republican, takes office in 2009. So it's going to be incumbent on all of you as NSS members and like-minded citizens across the nation to keep the pressure on both the White House and the Congress to fund NASA and its exploration initiative at a level that will allow America to make real progress. And there are those who are in competition with us as other nations. China is one. I've already said about what's happening with education. They're producing close to 10 times more engineers now than we are, and they're moving into and have set goals to be in space on a much bigger scale even than what we are trying to do ourselves. And it's not going to be easy, but I will always remember the quote that Gene Kranz said, "Failure is not an option." Now, that's the situation facing NASA and the vision. And I understand that many of you are going to be coming up to Washington, D.C. during the month of June. These flyers are out and about. Let the Blitz begin. You're going to be coming up to talk with members of our Congress. If I can be of help, and I've offered this to George, then I hope that you will all ask, and I'd look forward to seeing you there. But for those of you who get to go, don't just concentrate on your friends who do support space with all of your time, but please go to those folks who have not been the supporters of space and teach them. Give them your excitement about what you can see as that will change our future, the future of the opportunities for our children, to be excited about education, and for all of the things that we dream of in moving ourselves away from the surface and being restricted to the surface of this earth. Well, I hope that many of you will be able to come to this, because it's important for members to be talked to. There's an organization that we have created in the House of Representatives called HAT, House Action Team, that deals specifically with issues of space. It's a bipartisan organization. It's led by one Republican, Ken Calvert, one Democrat, Bud Kramer. And we have a growing number of members of Congress who are joining this organization. And its purpose is to do much what your Blitz is intended to do, to lobby other members of Congress, to explain to them why it's important to support space and to put the money necessary into all of our space activities, particularly supporting NASA. And it's critically important that these folks be supported as well. So those are a couple of things that I specifically wanted to mention to you. You know, at the same time that we're facing all of the challenges that I've mentioned in keeping NASA's programs funded and making progress, the news on the space front is certainly not all bad. And of course, I'm talking about all the exciting developments in the commercial space sector. What you just saw, what you're going to be hearing much more of. There's a great deal happening in commercial space, and I can see from your agenda that many of the folks who are making things happen are participating in this conference. And certainly I can't begin to explain what they're doing, and consequently I know that you'll be listening with excitement to the things that they have to say. So I'm not going to spend my time trying to tell you about things that they know more about than me. But the commercial efforts to support the International Space Station or emerging space tourism companies or any of the other things that are going on right now in the commercial sector are exciting to me. I think that's something that Congress has a responsibility to try to promote and to entice those of you who are willing to gamble to make the difference in your ability to achieve the goals that you set for yourselves. So you're going to hear from those leaders and of those initiatives firsthand over the next several days. And I'll do my part in Congress to make sure that whatever policy needs to be made to support those efforts gets done. And obviously we'll need your help with that. So all I want to say about that is that I'm very, very excited about the possibilities for opening up suborbital and orbital space, and maybe even beyond, to the private sector and the things that you're doing. It's good news for a number of reasons. It'll encourage economic development and progress. It will provide valuable and cost-effective capabilities to the government in support of the nation's civil space program. It can be an agent for mutually beneficial international cooperation, where such cooperation makes sense. And it can help our citizens realize the dream that has animated so many of you in NSS, helping the average citizen and, more importantly, our children to have realistic hope of getting into space someday. I desire it. That dream can be a powerful motivator of young people, and today's space entrepreneurs are helping that dream come true within our own lifetimes. I want to do what I can to help our citizens realize that dream, as well as ensure that our government space activities have the support and the resources that they need. It shouldn't and can't be an either-or situation. Let me take just a second to mention your conference theme, From Old Frontiers to New, celebrating 50 years of spaceflight. Given that theme, it's fitting that you decided to hold your conference in Texas. And I would hope that part of what I'm going to say here fits with the gentleman who asked the question about what about the risk. You know, in many ways, Texas epitomizes the enduring frontier vision, drawing on the rich traditions of our history, while at the same time moving forward to embrace the future in high technology and space exploration. Every effort that's happened in the history of this world has involved a significant cost, whether it's life, whether it's resources. We can't be afraid of looking for the next horizon. And I think that if we will remind people of that, when it comes to budget, for example, Lewis and Clark had to go back to Congress 13 times because they kept busting their budget. And if Congress hadn't funded or refunded or given them the next allocation necessary, it'd be interesting to see what the United States of America might look like today. And how many people died on much simpler tasks trying to reach the goals, the points that have today become so commonplace for us. The future will be here, and we have to make sure that we do the kinds of things that make it possible for it to come quickly and easily. I guess the perspective can be useful to those who are space enthusiasts. In our drive to move outward into space, it's sometimes too easy to overlook how much has changed, how much space has become an integral part already of the fabric of our society and of our economy. We have a great foundation of 50 years of accomplishments in space exploration on which to build. Let's get going on the next 50. And along the way, whatever I can do to be of help, I hope that you will not hesitate to ask. I look forward to seeing you in Washington. I look forward to seeing you at your future meetings, and maybe even in space. Thanks very much for letting me come be a part of your today.
Congressman, thank you so much. That was wonderful. In recognition of your presence and your words and your willingness to endure a stay in Newark on our behalf, we have a small token of our appreciation from Mary Ann Dyson, one of your constituents, who I know you know well. And thank you very, very much. Thank you again.